Hello everyone and welcome to today's Austmine webinar. I'm Sheldon Varco, Membership Manager New South Wales here at Austmine, and I'm pleased to be joined today by Antonio Sciutto, Senior Vice President Global Business Development Officer at Salesforce, for this discussion on digitalisation of CapEx to power a 360 view of projects and deliver end-to-end efficiencies. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that I'm hosting this webinar from the lands of the Gadigal people. I also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which you all work today and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people attending this webinar. For today's webinar, Antonio will leverage his significant experience in managing large CapEx projects to navigate major digital transformation projects in the mining industry. His discussion will include looking at the benefits of an integrated platform approach to managing the CapEx process, breaking silos through effective data integration and collaboration, and enhancing individual phases of the CapEx cycle and driving process efficiencies. Following Antonio's presentation, there will be an opportunity for audience Q&A. You can use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to send your questions through at any time. You can also upvote on any audience questions that you most want answered. So without further ado, I'll now hand over to Antonio to kick things off for us. Welcome, Antonio.
Thank you, Sheldon. Thank you, Austmine, for hosting us. Thank you all for joining. Good afternoon, everyone. So delighted to be with you today. I will go through probably 20-25 minutes of presentation, and after I would be really happy to have just an exchange with all of you that are joining. So regarding today's agenda, we'll cover these three topics, and after, as I said, we'll have time for discussion. But let's start immediately with trends in mining. So when we look at it from a global perspective, there are 6 trends that are really changing the landscape. Obviously, the growth of China and the leadership of China in the commodity is really changing and impacting the commodity markets price. The shift to electrification has also a big implication, especially when we think about minerals like nickel, cobalt, lithium. Environmental sustainability is getting a lot of pressure. As you know better than me, mining contributes for 8% of global carbon footprint. And so this is becoming really high pressure for any given CEO in the mining industry. The digitization, it's a really a thing in order to increase productivity. Current level of productivity are still below what productivity was in 2000. So there is a big opportunity to increase productivity by leveraging automation, artificial intelligence in all the process. Obviously, said latest facts are creating further disruption in the supply chain and obviously high inflation that is creating disruption as well overall in the market. So with that said, the focus and where the industry should really put the higher attention is to gain productivity. So when we go and look at growth opportunity, I think that the future ahead looks pretty good because when we think about the energy transition, the digitalization, the urbanization trends, this is reflecting in what is expected to be an 8% growth in the global market of mining. This is in between the expected CAGR between 21 and 25. Also, we expect a 2x demand for all the clean energies, the minerals that are really powering the demand for clean energy and energy transition overall. With that said, this will also drive important implication because in order to capture this growth, the mining industry is expected to increase CapEx at a rate of 10% year on year in the same period. Moving to the challenges. And so look, guys, I work in the broader infrastructure ecosystem. We cover all the raw materials. I think these challenges are not just common to mining, are common to many industries. When I look at the broader infrastructure ecosystem, is one of the industry with the lowest maturity on digitalization. There was a study of McKinsey that was reflecting in the global I'll say, end-to-end ecosystem that so cover the entire chain, 1% of digital index. So a lot of opportunity. But when we look at the main challenges, the first one that is paramount in any given transformation of business is about data. The lack of not having a unique, centralized quality data, integrated data, scalable data architecture, not with point-to-point connectors when exist, but ideally with an API ecosystem. It's really an element that is moving down productivity, resulting in a lot of manual processes, time consuming, and so on and so forth. So, you know, the lack of different tools in use and the fact that a lot of these processes are still manual, you have a lot of Excels going here and there. The project management usually is not really supported in a, you know, automated way. But most importantly, and also with the change in the labor market, I'll say skilled workforce is becoming a topic. Also, at a higher level, the war on talent, because, you know, the industry is struggling to have an employer proposition as a branding in the industry to attract talent that are needed to increase this productivity. The last one that I want to mention is the functional silos that exist along the value chain. When we look at this specifically to mining, it results in 40% of cost overrun when we run big projects, especially when we think about greenfield, and 60% of delays. So the average schedule delays on large project is 2.2 years. So very challenging background and a lot of opportunities. For me, the reason why I'm excited in working in this industry is the opportunity of digitalization are massive. Let's understand our value proposition. So if you're not familiar with Salesforce, probably the thing that you need to know is the company was founded 23 years ago and grew from 0 to 27 billion. That was the closure of previous fiscal. And we have done this success by putting the customer at the center and building around the customer solution that are covering and automating with one platform all the key front-end processes. So the platform obviously also comes with a lot of systems that you see on the right and underlying services that are improving the experience. So with organic development, with the M&A, Salesforce are right today to cover all the need of a company around sales, service, marketing, commerce, the analytics. We have a very powerful integration layer, very important for industry like mining, where data integration is a key factor for success. And after many other solutions that covers all the elements of a given need in a company. But let's speak about mining. So in mining, you know, the things are different. So obviously you have a customer at the center, but you have also the asset at the center that needs to run, that needs to, you know, be maintained and have to be followed and managed along the entire asset life cycle. There are 6 areas. 2 of those are more relevant and more urgent in order to improve productivity. The first one that I will mention, because any given transformation should start with data. You know, at the end of the day, if the quality of your data are poor, it's garbage in, garbage out. It doesn't really matter if you will buy a leading solution like us or any other given solution. You cannot expect that much if the quality, the data input and the quality underneath will not be good. So the first effort should be to really have quality data, integrated data, API ecosystem in order to build on a solid basics. And this should also be combined with analytics. So getting control at any given moment with real-time data across all the key areas of the industry, the operation, and so on and so forth. After, there are 4 modules that are in the middle of the slide, where one is going and managing the operational efficiency. So mainly around IoT data that are going and being dispatched across all the different layers in the organization, is also creating a collaboration, better coordination of the phases, exchange across company, mainly going to break silos in the way we operate. After, there is a solution to manage supplier and all the relationship management, creating end-to-end visibility, improving the selection, a data-driven selection of the supplier, so maintaining history, maintaining all the documentation for compliance purpose in one element, facilitating the onboarding, and the way to interact with them. It's a big driver of reducing not only the procurement cost, but also potential liabilities, as well as the employee experience. As I said, attracting talent will become an even bigger challenge. So the fact that the company are moving in this industry to a better experience, to a more digitalized experience, facilitating the life of the employee in the relationship with the company, both for a training perspective and for, basic needs perspective and beyond. This will go really well, not only to improve retention and attraction of talent, but also to improve productivity of the employees. Last but not least, sustainability. This has been a new addition to our corporate values, but also a few years ago, Mark Benioff, our founder itself, was unhappy on the fact that we were not able to have a real-time situation of the carbon footprint of our company. So we developed a solution that is allowed to ingest all the given input data and track in real time the carbon footprint of the company, allowing us to really define action plan. And this allowed us last year to achieve net zero. And now we are going to be a positive contributor for the planet. So last but not least, and will be the focus of today, is a solution that allows to manage on time, on budget, on schedule capital delivery. And this is both for greenfield and brownfield investment. So, and the focus of today is really to go in the details of this solution. So I will pause for a second. I have a question for Rolf, from Rolf, and I will really go and answer. So first thing, companies, and let's make this more generic, because in my experience, as Sheldon was mentioning, I had the privilege to be at Nestle. I led the global digitalization of the group, and in my time at Salesforce, I probably supported thousands of companies in their digitalization. So the first thing is the majority of companies have a lot of data, and the real problem is that these data, a lot of those are not used, are not maintained. So the quality of these data is not good simply because they are outdated. So the first thing is, do we really capture data that are real-time data? Do we maintain the data set? And the second element that goes beyond quality is integration. Assuming that out of the selection of data, I will identify what are the key strategic set. I will really define a data model for both my customer, for example, a data model for the employees, a data model for the supplier, the partner that are working with us, a data model for the asset that I run. So assuming that I will do that, I need to ensure that that data model will be, that data model will be connected, will be integrated in real time. So I would say that if you will have these things, real-time data, if you will identify what are the key strategic data and you will ensure that those data are connected, if you will have as well a system of record that will allow you to power information and insight from this data, that one would be an ideal situation. And I don't know if I answered the question. Please keep asking if you will need any more. But this is what I will mention for good data. So with that, let's move on the solution itself regarding the CapEx cycle. I will tell you what has been the intuition, and this solution has been developed directly from the team that I lead globally, that cover the entire infrastructure ecosystem, and is highly relevant for any given company that is asset intensive but also for an industry that are asset intensive, but also for in general company that needs to manage a CapEx cycle. When you think about the CapEx cycle, the data, and again, I go back to data because at the end, that one is the core and the power of transformation. Ideally, you need to have all the data related to the asset. And when we refer to the asset, this data could be related to even before a big asset, a big plant that will go in place, related to the project that later on will become an asset. Because as an asset owner, we need to monitor the execution of the asset also before the asset will be completed. So after you have the employees that are needed to really run the asset, and you have all the partners, the broader ecosystem of third parties that will be critically important to build, to run, to maintain the asset. So this set of data are critically important to have full control of the asset. When you have that, and you think about the life cycle on how you will build and maintain an asset, usually everything starts with investment planning. So you have your investment portfolio, your decision. So you need to be sure that any given project will be managed through a stage-gated set of approval, that you will have technical, commercial requirements, solid business case, and ideally avoiding that everything will go back and forth through Excel file. I will tell you, I was leading the digital transformation of a $100 billion company, and was, for me, mind-blowing thinking about that now, that the main investment planning strategic negotiation with the headquarter was mainly exchanging Excel files from the operating unit, the CFO unit in the operating unit, and the headquarter. So ideally, what you want to add is a stage-gated approach that properly complete the investment planning. When the investment planning is done and completed, you move to the engineering and design phase. Basically, the engineering and design, take the specs, think about the plan, but also about intervention to improve the plan, ideally all the modernization that needs to happen to become net zero. When this is done and the engineering design is completed, you go to the permitting side. You need to deal with local authorities. You need to get all the authorization. When this is done, you go to tendering and you start the selection of your supplier. And finally, you get into project execution. So what is the issue? What is the problem? The problem is that these operations are performed by different groups. You don't have a system that connects the dots and allow the end-to-end visibility. And these also impact severely the productivity, because you don't have coordination, you don't have visibility of data, you don't have collaboration with third party outside the company to perform this activity, and any given solution run or phases run in isolation. This is a massive impact on productivity. That is a good opportunity for the industry where the productivity, as we said, is pretty low. So we digitize entirely this solution, and the way we did it was first, obviously, we have an integration layer. MuleSoft has been an acquisition back in the days 5 years ago, I think. It was a considered big acquisition for Salesforce, was $7 billion. We acquired this integration layer that is a leader in the industry. But that one is the first part where any given source coming from a legacy system, external databases, should be brought through this integration layer, ideally into the platform, to power the solution. After you have specific use case, data model, and solution that cover the different phases of the CapEx cycle that I described before. And on top of that, we overlaid an intelligence and analytics layer that is intended to bring artificial intelligence, facilitating decision for all the stakeholder. Last but not least, is changing the way how different functions interact, allowing them to communicate within the solution, within the same set of data and processes that they are managing. So the implications are massive. So we calculated, we did an analysis together with our industry experts and a lot of application in manufacturing. And we see an opportunities of 10x ROI in the digitization of the CapEx for the mining industry. Obviously, because the index, as I said, of digital maturity and the level of digitization of these processes is very low. You have a lot of manual processes and a lot of Excel that are usually managing these phases. So when you look at the key drivers are, first of all, the decrease of the overall expenditure and the risk of the portfolio. The overall expenditure will be really achieved because of a proper phasing of all the different activities, eliminating, period of when no activities happen, because you will have a better phasing and coordination. But most importantly, because you will go with a data-driven, with insight across the execution, you will eliminate a lot of rework. This will drive an increase in speed on the CapEx deployment. And obviously, the capabilities that will make it happen are related to data integration, visualization, and collaboration. As a result of this different way of working, we expect a reduction of overrun cost of 25%. The other one is the speed up of the CapEx deployment itself inside the process through automation and through automatically allocating the right resources on the right place, on the right activities, that will obviously increase the effectiveness of the people operating the plant or maintaining the plant. So this is an overarching, I would say, picture on the expected economical benefit. I think that we now will go and we give you an idea. At the moment we didn't implement this solution in any mining company. And the reason is because we're working with many companies on improving the data quality and the data integration. That, as I said, should be the next step. Unfortunately, speed has not been great in moving and making progress, but we're getting there. And once the data will be solid, I think that the opportunity will really be to implement this end-to-end CapEx. I will show you a solution in action in an infrastructure operator that maintains road. And you can relate to it by thinking about all the brownfield intervention that you need to do in the maintenance and in the running of a mining site. With that, Sheldon, if you can please play the video, we can see how the solution will work across the different phases.
So let's see how a capital investment solution based on Salesforce can improve visibility and coordination over the CapEx cycle to ultimately improve on time, on budget, and on specs project delivery. Today, we'll dive into the life of a team working at Autopista S.A., a Spanish road network operator. As part of their concession agreement, their AP2 highway is undergoing a cycle of new investments for network upgrade. So let's start with Carlo, Territory Manager for the Eastern Hub. I start my day and I have a comprehensive end-to-end view of all the projects within my region. I'm looking at the dashboard and I can quickly see which projects are on time, on budget, or even delayed. I just received a notification coming from our Enterprise Asset Management System. One of the AP2 tunnels has electrical dysfunction impacting the ventilation system. We need to act quickly on this one. I'm looking at the case. I see that this asset performance has been decreasing over time. Let's quickly schedule an inspection. This inspection request will then be dispatched to the right resources based on their skills and availability. Now, let's fast forward. The inspection has been completed and I have been notified. I'm looking at the report and inspection results, and it's clear that the critical component needs to be replaced and civil works are needed. To prioritize this new intervention, I'm creating a new request with cost estimates and references to the asset and inspection report. This request will automatically reach Monica, head of the technical office, for approval. So let's follow this request with Monica, head of the technical office. I've been notified of the request. I have access to all the contextual information on the asset and inspection. What's even better is that I have the right information in hand to quickly assess whether the budget and timeline are likely to be correct. Everything looks good, so I approve the request. I know that all the team members will be notified. Once it's approved, it will go through the engineering and design, tendering and permitting, to finally land in project execution with the selected subcontractor. At this point, we need the help of George, lead engineer, to take care of the technical documentation required for the tendering process. So I'm looking at the AP2 projects and see the brand new request. We are working on this new request with external engineering firms. I can clearly see where all deliverables stands and if there are issues to be addressed. The team has also a central collaboration document connected to the process. Moreover, we're tracking any permits that will be required for this intervention. Now, let's fast forward in time. Engineering design has been completed. Procurement team was quickly able to select the right subcontractor, ventilation SA, and the project is hitting its final step. This critical intervention is supervised by Diego, project manager. I have a complete overview of the project execution. I can see the high-level plan with work progress aligned with expected milestones. I also have high-level information on the financial of the project. We can all use collaboration channels if there are any issues or need for clarification. And of course, all the project-related documentation are accessible. In my day-to-day job, I can easily assess the project progress remotely while ensuring quality standards. We are now at the project completion. I've been notified that a checklist with functioning requirements and relative documentation has been completed. Let's review it. Again, everything looks good and I approve it. Everyone's following this project will be informed of its completion, including the finance director and Monica. After a final check, the subcontractor ventilation SA received a payment and a notification. Now let's get back to where all this started with Carlo, territory manager. I was following this intervention along, and I can now see that it's been completed on time and on budget, and this critical asset health has increased. Moreover, project performance data and lessons learned are added to our central project repository, this becoming the foundation to improve all future projects. During this journey at Autopista SA, we saw how Salesforce can improve end-to-end visibility and coordination with a single source of truth of your investment and project for your extended team. A solid capital investment solution is key to unlock on time, on budget, and on spec delivery improvements.
All right, I keep it back from there. So there was also a question. So we already, despite we developed the solution, in the last 12 months, we already started implementation with several infrastructure operators in rail and road, but most importantly with Italgas, an oil and gas company that also open up for sharing knowledge. So I will be very happy if you are interested to invite you in a real go and see. And in the go and see, you can really see how the solution work in action. Italgas has a digital factory. They are currently implementing the solution in an agile way with wave of 3-4 months across the different modules. So just reach out to Austmine or to myself directly, and I will be happy to include you in the next go and see. So there is another question, a common question, mind to me the project. So it's a great question, and I will tell you, we had the same challenge when we were applying this in the construction and infrastructure ecosystem. And I will tell you, if there are software like could be the one you mentioned or Primavera that are already in a solid way running the execution of the project. So, for example, tracking project management, achieving a milestone, and these are embedded in the operational team that delivered the project, we usually are not suggesting or replacing it. The usual challenge, and I would love to hear your thoughts on that one, is that these type of solutions are usually managed by a very limited number of groups that are the only one that can query the system and provide visibility in achieving the milestone in situation of the project overall. What the solution does that you saw here is bringing, for example, from Primavera or from this solution, the key milestone, providing visibility to everybody across any given function and allowing them to work on the same solution. That one is the main difference of what we want to achieve. And happy to hear your thoughts about that, because this is what is intended to be, is intended to break silos. All right. So we'll quickly go back to the benefit, and after we open up for more question and answer. So obviously, the first big achievement is to identify the bottlenecks. The reason why productivity is usually impacted in this project is because you don't have a system to timely identify the bottlenecks and the root cause in order to trigger action. This will allow in real time to predictively see if a milestone is going to be missed. You don't see in the screen button very well, but you have the artificial intelligence that will support any given person involved in the process by giving recommendation on activity that are to be attention or activity that can cause delay on potential root cause of this delay. And this is the power of bringing all this data into one platform that is powered with artificial intelligence. This also, as you can easily see, will provide KPI, visibility, and transparency to everybody. So we'll facilitate a data-driven decision-making and transparency. You know, usually that one is a massive achievement. The collaboration, you saw how in the solution different functions were collaborating with each other, notified immediately about completion of stuff or next step or action requirement. So this coordination and collaboration is paramount. Last but not least, you have a single source of truth on the project, the resource involved, pending action. Also from a compliance perspective, documentation perspective, you will have any given information stored in one place and easily accessible to everybody. And this will provide an end-to-end picture also of your investment portfolio. So there is another question so that I'm going to look at. Tendering as a key use case. Do you compete against companies like Ariba, or do you integrate similar to Primavera? So we manage procurement and tendering in thousands of companies. Okay, you need to think that Salesforce nowadays is 250,000 company, and you know, you have mixed situation. The beauty of Salesforce platform, for the way how the platform is designed, is very agile. So we usually can cover the process end to end, especially in several cases. We also add the quoting capabilities because we have a solution that is just for quoting. In other cases, we take part of it and we go with the need of the customer. And you know, the beauty of Salesforce is really to allow this flexibility. Any other question before we wrap up? So I will just stop sharing and get back to Sheldon.
Excellent. Thanks a lot for that, Antonio.
There is a question, I think.
Yes, another one just coming through. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Probably we didn't properly share in these things, but Slack is supposed to become for us the overarching layer where all the communication happened. So today you were not seeing properly in the demo because it was mixed with Quip, but the two things are now totally integrated and work together. So yes, the solution is Slack first.
Excellent.
Across the different verticals that you see in the solution.
Fantastic. I had actually another question that we had in the last Salesforce webinar about a slightly different solution. But what are the other common integrations for Salesforce?
What do you mean, in the mining or overall? What?
Yeah, in the mining space. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I will tell you the current focus is on two things. Because of the stage of where the industry is, the main focus, and I think that what I will invite you guys as a priority number one, it's on data and system integration. I think that, I think all of you are doing good mapping, cleaning of the back end. Usually the back end of this company is a mess. You have a lot of legacy homegrown system. And the first step is to really integrate all this system, integrate all the data. The second, as we discussed today, is to go and look at the quality of the data that you have. Once this is done, I will basically look at any given solution that you have active in the CapEx cycle, and we'll start from there. Why? I will start from there because I think that the mining is very interesting, right? When you have a good commodity price, as we were discussing together, Sheldon, you focus on getting the max output out of the mining plant, and you don't really focus on productivity. But I think that if you will achieve this productivity enhancement and improvement, you will have also the money to potentially digitize and cover more value-added process. So step change in the overall productivity of the industry.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Antonio. And hopefully with some of what you presented at the start there with the trend towards, with the need for creating a renewable future and decarbonizing, it's actually going to put the onus on more from the mining industry. So yeah, hopefully that means...
There was an interesting question that came up that is related to payment. Yes, as you saw in the demo, we are integrating two important processes, not only the payment and automating the payment, but also the claims. Because, claims is another big one. And you need to think that for claims, and this is a very big reflection that we did with several infrastructure operators, and especially with oil and gas. We did gas, for example, it was a big discussion. The fact that you now have transparency, the fact that all the people that are working on a specific, also on a small maintenance intervention, and the fact that you store documentation, compliance requirements, certification in one place is facilitate a lot the resolution of the claims. In your favor if you want to do it because it's convenient for you, or also in debating and arguing against a claim that is coming your way, because you have all your data, and most probably the other part doesn't. So that one is a massive advantage, and reducing liabilities.
Excellent. And Antonio, there's a question. Was that the answer there to the question about digitizing payments with suppliers and subcontractors?
Yes. Yeah. The answer is fully yes, as you saw in the demo, as well as digitizing the claim process.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, that looks like it's all the questions we have for now. But if you do want to get in touch with Antonio or the team at Salesforce for any more questions, Austmine can facilitate that. So please just get in touch. Everyone viewing the webinar and everyone who's registered will receive an email tomorrow with a copy of the recording that will also have some details about how to get in touch with the Salesforce team as well.
Yes, and potentially, Sheldon, we can include the invitation to the Go and See of Italgas so they can see the solution in action. So that one would be a pleasure for me to extend the invite.
That would be absolutely fantastic to see that in action. So that would be perfect. So Antonio, thanks a lot for running us through the way that Salesforce are digitizing major projects. Really appreciate your thoughts on some of those mega trends that you presented at the start as well.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone who's attended the webinar, and thanks again to the team at Salesforce for partnering with Austmine on this. Stay safe, everybody, and we look forward to welcoming you along to the next webinar. Thanks.
Thank you, Sheldon. Thank you, Austmine. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye. Take care. Bye-bye.